From the battlefields of Afghanistan and Iraq to the boardrooms of major companies like Nike, Walmart, and Microsoft. And now author Blayne Smith is from Portland, and he's written a book just recently released called Perseverance is Greater Than Endurance.
Blayne just joins us this morning to talk about his journey and book. Blayne, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
First of all, talk about your experience in your service in the military as a Green Beret Special Ops, and how was that?
Sure. Yeah, so I graduated from West Point in June of 2001, and I thought my military career was going to be short and relatively unexciting, and then a few months later, towers fell on 9/11, and it just changed everything for me, for my life and for my career. And so I spent a few years at Fort Hood, Texas in the 1st Cavalry Division, did a deployment to Iraq there. While there, had a chance to work with the Green Berets, and seeing them in action side by side really inspired me. So I got home from that deployment, went to the qualification course, and a few years later ended up on a team. Spent a few years at Fort Bragg, North Carolina at 3rd Special Forces Group, did a deployment to Afghanistan there, and I got kind of the world tour. It was everything I ever hoped my career would be and more.
Thank you so much for your service. Can you tell us more about what inspired this book and what people will find?
Sure. So the idea of perseverance is really important to my co-author and I, Brandon. It's something we learned a lot during our career in the military, and the idea is this: endurance is important, and it's admirable, and we all need it, but we all kind of reach the extent of our endurance at some point. And during 2020, when we saw the COVID lockdowns and everything going on, we saw this dynamic at play where good, smart, tough people were just kind of hanging on and waiting for it to be over, or riding it out and kind of white knuckling it. And we saw this dynamic, and it popped in our head that, like, we need to recognize there's been a lot of change and there's a lot of uncertainty, and we're gonna have to grow through this. We're gonna have to adapt. We're gonna have to change. We can't just kind of hang in there and endure our way through this.
Well, tell us about the book now. There are 3 statements included in the title. Let's start with lead with resilience.
Sure. I think to be effective as a leader, you've got to be able to bounce back from adversity. And so, you hear all these cliches that life's not about what happens to you, but how you respond to it. And we found that those things are cliches for a reason, because they're true. And so in order to be an effective leader, you want to be able to yourself and guide your team through tough times and learn and grow through it, not just get through it.
And next is grow through adversity. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's really kind of an extension of the same thing. We think that adversity is an opportunity for us to learn about ourselves, to come closer as a team, and to make the adjustments and exercise the growth we need to get ultimately where we're trying to go.
And then there's the last one, which, I mean, you can take that with everything from sports to the military to all the corporations out there, TV stations. Win together.
Yeah, this is really important, and especially as a leader, you can't just take off and do this all on your own. The last chapter is called Go Together in the book, and Brandon and I reflect a lot on not just our military career, but on our life after the military. And one of the biggest lessons we've learned really the hard way is that you can't just be the big, tough, strong leader who charges ahead and leaves your people behind. That if you're going to go far, you really do need to go together. And
4 other things you want to get across when it comes to change: uncertainty, acceptance, choice, and growth. Can you talk more about those?
Sure. In a world with a lot of change, which generally leads to uncertainty, and I think a lot of us can appreciate what's going on right now in the world and say, hey, we've had a lot of change, things are uncertain. What we can do as individuals is accept our circumstances for what they are. We can recognize what's going on around us, and though we may wish it were different, we really need to embrace and accept what's going on. Seeing the world clearly is a leader's first job in our mind. And then you have to make a choice. What are you going to do about it? If you can see the world clearly, and it may be more than one choice. It may be making a choice every day when things are really hard, how you want to proceed. And then, again, the payoff, we think, is really the growth.
What do you hope that people get out of this book?
Hope is maybe the most important thing. Life can be hard. Business is hard. Sports are hard. Leading is very hard, especially if you care. And what we tried to do with the book is help people get a framing around this, to recognize that they're not alone. These dynamics exist for a reason, and they can have some tools to grab onto that will allow them to get through the things that are so hard for them and emerge on the other side stronger.
And is that what the response has been so far from readers? What have you heard?
Yeah, thank you for asking. We were nervous writing the book, especially telling some of our military stories in there, because we don't want to disappoint our comrades. And the feedback's been amazing in the book. I think Brandon and I, leaving the special operations community and now spending so much time in the business world, has allowed us to take those lessons and really shape them in a way that they're useful for a really broad range of folks.
Speaking of the business community, you worked with several major organizations like Geico, Microsoft, Walmart, Apple, Starbucks, and Nike. I was working with, I mean, those are big time companies.
Yeah, it's been humbling is the first thing, because there are really professional, really smart and effective people in all of those organizations. But I think the big thing that we've learned is that challenges and problems may look a little different depending on where you go, but so many organizations are facing the same challenges. And some of the most important work we do when we show up is to say, hey, what you're going through is hard, and we recognize that, but you're normal. This happens all over the place, and we can get through it together.
Wow. And where can people find your book?
So you can go to perseverancebook.com, or you can find out more information about our business at appliedleadershippartners.com.
All right, now we're of course celebrating this book, and we want to get this one, but have you thought about the next one you want to write? Or is there going to be a next one?
I hope so. So we actually do have an idea for the next book, and I'll tease it a little bit. It's called The Wisdom Economy. And we've got some pretty strong thoughts about, with AI and technology and everything advancing so rapidly, we're thinking a lot about the human connection skills and what we'll do to be effective in a world that's got such a large digital footprint.
Incredible. Looking forward to that. And thank you so much for sharing this book with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And thanks again for your service.
Yeah, thank you so much for having.
Of course.